What's good, people of Destiny? How you guys doing? I'm doing great, especially now that I'm showing you week 3 of my Nightfall rewards, but also giving you guys a heads up and tips to help you go into the Nightfall 2 and slay some enemies this week. Last week we had the Shield Brothers for Veterans Day, and now we have an old nemesis, Tannix. Quick shout out to the Nightfall squad, that dirty hobo, Manuel, the Wave, and Huey. Thank you guys for all your support. Now, I'm pretty sure majority of you know the cheeses in certain spots to make it through this type of strike, but I do want to let you know of the advantages and disadvantages that this Nightfall is giving you this week, and they are Epic, Solar Burn, Airborne, Catapult, and Exposure. I'd say the last four is really what you just want to consider here, especially Solar Burn, because you can use solar weapons to increase the damage output towards the enemies, but here's a key thing to remember. You know Tannix likes to carry that Scorched Cannon around, so he'll also be putting you at a disadvantage as well. And I've observed it. He can kill you in about 2 to 3 cannon shots, and he shoots them about per second, so he can kill you pretty fast. Next is Airborne. Try not to jump, guys, because you'll die faster. And yes, I know we all think jumping is the idea of evasive action against enemy shots when running away, but it'll do you good if you just keep your feet to the ground. Third is Catapult. Grenade recharge rate is greatly increased. I'd say you should max out your discipline as much as possible and use your solar subclass, if it's in your interest, because you'll find yourself using your grenades more often against your enemies, which is good. Finally, we have Exposure. Guardian shields are increased, but do not replenish. So you know what that means. Just take cover as much as possible, and try to stay close to teammates for a more convenient space of reviving. Now that we have these things in consideration, let's head into the Nightfall strike. It's called the Shadow Thief on the Moon. There are 2 bosses here, first the Wolfwalker in mid-strike, and lastly Tannix, but you'll be encountering him a few times before you can face him in the final room. As far as these annoying enemies, the only ones you will want to watch out for are the Noble Vandals, Wolf Reaver Captains, and Exploding Shanks. The Noble Vandals carry, I believe, what's it called, wire rifles, which is essentially their sniper rifle, and they will hurt you in this Nightfall, so be stealthy and quick on your scope if you're running snipes. You want to take them out first when facing a wave. The captains have an overshield, so they'll be the hardest to take down, and also keep in mind, don't get too close because they will chase you like no tomorrow. I'm serious. Lastly, Exploding Shanks are the least to worry about until you meet the Wolfwalker, because they come out of the door on your right side unexpectedly, so keep in mind, if you're busy shooting the walker from that entrance, watch your radar as well, because those Shanks will suicide bomb you to death. Speaking of the Wolfwalker, he's not that easy to take down, but like I said earlier, if you're using solar based weapons, you'll take him down faster. Here I'm using my solar 1000 YS and the Tamarind. If you're sniping, you want to snipe his legs because those are his critical spots. I'm sure most of you already know that, but for those who out there who don't know, please take note. Last thing, not only do you need to avoid the walker's shots, you also need to watch out for those Noble Vandals with the wire rifles. They're just sitting up but behind and above the walker on a ledge, so try to take cover as much as possible and pop out only to fire shots. Okay, moving on to Tannix. In the final room, you and your fire team should unload as much shots as possible as soon as he spawns in, because the enemies won't come out until Tannix starts teleporting. Again, I'm not too sure about these cheeses nowadays with these strikes, but there is a good spot where you can peep and shoot him, but you are still vulnerable to enemy fire. Here I use the spot to my advantage by sniping, using heavy, and chucking grenades. You can't stay in that spot for too long though, because enemies will start walking up to you. You want to be more mindful of the enemies than Tannix, because they are annoying and will kill you more often than Tannix himself at that point. This room is where I believe the most enemies will come out of, so be prepared. Alright, let's move on to the rewards. The first set of rewards we got are Subterranean Bond at level 300 for Manuel, then 3 of coins for me, and finally the Questing Beast at 293 for Ringo. The second set of rewards are 2 Strange coins for Maxwell, then a Vanguard Ghost Shell at level 304 for me, and finally 3 of coins for the Wave. And last but not least, the final set of rewards are the Thunderlord Year 2 at level 290 for Huey. Oh, bruh. And lastly, 12 more 3 of coins for me again. But hey, good job, Huey. Well, that wraps it up for this week's Nightfall, guys. I do hope my tips and heads up have given you an insight before you head in there. If not, that's cool to me. You could do this Nightfall any way you'd like. I'm not stopping you, I'm not forcing you to do anything. But at the end of the day, I'm getting this Nightfall done 3 times a week, playa. Hey, but in all seriousness, guys, let's get this done this week, alright? Until next time, take care.